Alright folks, I'm going to do something that's never been done. You know how the apologists have the transcendental argument for existence of God? Well, I can flip it. We can go both ways. And if we can go both ways, this means your God is unnecessary and it doesn't have to exist. So check it. Check this out. I'm going to do the transcendental argument for non-existence of God. Alright? So it goes like this. Logic presupposes that its principles are necessarily true. With the TAG's arguments, God created everything including logic, or at least everything including logic is dependent on God. However, if logic is created by or contingent on God, it is not necessary. It is contingent on God. And if the principles of logic are contingent on God, they are not logically necessary. And God can change it on God's fiat. Thus, God can change the laws of identity to make it invalid at some point, making statements not the same as itself. Since logic is contingent to God as one of His creation, to argue that God cannot change laws of logic blows away God's omnipotence. As a result, the claim that logic is dependent on God is false. It's logic. So think about it. If we can pull this both ways, if the apologists can do the transcendental argument for the existence of God, and we can do it for the non-existence of God, that means God's made up, folks. God's unnecessary. Remember, there were smart people back then. There was atheists in 3000 BC that debunked the God argument even back then. But just because people had to make up a God doesn't mean it's real. It doesn't mean it's true. What's real is science and evidence. That's the truth. So, so that's the logical, and then we can go to the morality. So if morality presupposes God, then the morality in question would be characterized as a variation of the divine command theory, in that moral obligations are dependent on the will of God. However, that runs into the following problems. Which gods? To argue that the scriptures of one particular religion is correct reduces the case to being my book is better than your book. To make it worse, all the scriptures give a somewhat different, though also broadly similar list of moral obligations to follow, and the interpretation of the passages from the same scriptures can be different as well. Since there is no rational way to reconcile the differences without resorting to the argument of which book is correct, morality in the sense is not exactly objective. Since God created such morality, can God change it? If God can change it on His fiat, then morality is not exactly objective. Such morality can hardly be argued to be objective anyway, because it doesn't apply to God. For morality to be objective, it would have to be uniformly applicable to all possible actors at all possible times and all possible contexts, which means it shouldn't even be possible. If objective morality exists, to imagine a species for which, for example, killing would be less wrong. If God cannot change what He had created, then God cannot be omnipotent. As a result, the morality that presupposes God cannot be objective, and objective morality does not presuppose God. Just imagine if you were to die and then you had to face God, like at the judge and jury, and then you just broke this out to Him. How the hell is He going to refute this? Why would this knowledge be there if there was a God? There wouldn't have to be this. That's why God is irrelevant. God is non-existent. And more years from now, it's going to even be to the point of non-existent. It's already point of non-existent, but it's going to be even more point of non-existent. So yeah, like I said, you can swing it both ways. Think about it. If there was only one truth, one way, and you can defeat the truth, accordingly to apologists, or that God exists, then God would be irrefutable. You couldn't defeat it because God is perfect, right? God is annoying. You can't defeat God. But if you can go both ways, this means that God is made up, folks. God is irrelevant. You can go both ways, man. If you only can go one way,